Kia ora koutou, welcome to the Mana News. Now let's take a look at the government's refusal to take on more refugees. Now first off, the people that are telling us we can't take any more refugees, they all happen to be millionaires. Now this seems unscrupulous, but it gets worse, much worse. Let's take Mike Hosking's argument to refuse increasing our refugee quota. He claims it's too expensive. Now let's take a look.
Let's deal with the call to take more refugees into this country. First question, how many more? And we can answer that by dealing in part anyway with the cost. Prime Minister tells us the 750 plus families we take currently costs us $60 million. So how much more do we want to spend? Do we want to double it? Do we want to triple it? And whatever answer you come up with, where is that money coming from? Because it has to come from somewhere. You might remember the government has been under some heat recently over deficits and surpluses. They promised we'd be back in the black by next year, and we might.
Mike, you forgot to make this argument when government spent $65 million to send troops to Iraq, or the unnecessary flag change you supported for $23 million. The reality is Western armies invading Iraq inspired Islamic State, and New Zealand sending more troops to Iraq is only going to compound the situation. Those deficits Mike Hosking's talking about are caused by tax breaks for millionaires. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not against success, but why allow tax avoidance for millionaires so other human beings can't find refuge in Aotearoa, New Zealand? It's unscrupulous. Now let's take this refugee, Ruth Lazar, born in Vienna, Austria. She was the youngest child of Max. She was a woman who had fled Nazi occupation and started a new life in New Zealand as a refugee. On the 9th of August 1961, she gave birth to a son who would go on to become the Prime Minister of New Zealand, the man that would reject increasing New Zealand's refugee quota. Now, there is never going to be an ideal time to increase our refugee quota. It's becoming an embarrassment internationally. We have to see these refugees not as foreign nationals, but as human beings that are trying to escape certain death. They have no choice but to try and escape or die, and it's not the Kiwi way to be self-centred millionaires. So I have James Papali'i here to join me today. James, please join us.
Talafaloa.
Kia ora, how are you, James?
Good, mate, good.
So James, how do you feel about what Mike Hoskins said in News Talk?
Well, I think generally most New Zealanders are going to feel that our country has to stand up, and this is a United Nations effort. And at the moment New Zealand is saying nothing. Germany's opened up their gates, and it's awesome what they're doing. These families are feeling welcome, and that's what New Zealand should be doing, and that's what most New Zealanders would be wanting to do. You know, offering clothes and money and things like that. That's how the general population would handle this.
Yeah. So, do you think that New Zealand could have spent money on alternative things to?
Well, look, the millions they spent on the flag, also the billions that they spent in the finance companies bailing them out.
Like bailing out South Canterbury Finance?
Yeah, exactly. The image of the young Syrian boy, Aylan Kurdi, washed up on the Turkish coast, that's going to be in everybody's minds and for life, really. And so most New Zealanders would want something urgently to happen, and I think our country's not doing that.
Yeah. I remember when I opened up my Facebook and I saw that young Aylan Kurdi, and it was just gutting. I think everyone felt hurt by seeing that in their Facebook feed.
Yeah, and that's how most of us feel. Well, we've got to do something about it. We can't be quiet. New Zealanders, you know, they're the ones that want to get out there and do something and lead the way. And at the moment, we're quiet, and that's our leaders. So I think the leaders need to listen to the general population of New Zealand and start acting.
Yeah, it's the Kiwi way to show empathy, isn't it?
That's the way.
Yeah. Oh well, thank you for joining us today,
No worries,
James. And this is the Mana News. My name's Joe Trender, and thank you for joining us. Kia ora.